Hi everyone, hope you can all hear me. Afternoon. Okay, who's here? Hi Tanya. Hi Hannah. Sivikile, Mary, Nazrin, welcome everybody. Welcome to the session. I know you're all exhausted, so thank you all. You made it this far. And we are all freezing wherever we are. For those of you who are joining from outside the country, please send us lots of sunshine because we are so cold. I hope everybody is well. Hi, Bronwyn. I know you're all exhausted and literally at your wit's end, but just hang in there, guys. Just a little bit more. Can you believe it? You're already like one semester down. So almost to recess. Hi, Christine. Okay. I'm going to get started. I'm sure more participants will join as we go. I know you're all got lots to do and you're all tired. So this is really just a final session to wrap everything up. I'm getting inundated with questions about the portfolio, and I know that it's new and it's scary. I'm also seeing from the other assignments that some students are not very good at reading instructions. So I'm just mindful. I want you all to do well on this portfolio. And I really don't want you to lose marks over silly things. So I thought it would be, rather than posting videos, it would be better to just have a session where you can throw at me everything you've got and I will do my best to answer. Hopefully you guys are pretty much more than halfway, if not, 3/4 of the way through your portfolio and have the gist of it, and have questions now about it. So I thought what we'd do in this session is just, I want to go through the instructions again for those of us who don't like reading. And then whatever questions you have, if you're not sure of anything, this is your opportunity. Ask away. I'm not going to respond to email questions about the portfolio. So I repeat this. This is your chance. This is your opportunity to ask, engage. Everything you need to know. If you're watching the recording, then I really hope someone's asked the questions that you have. You can post on the Q&A. But I'm really not going to do one-on-ones on the portfolio. So it's really important that we make sure we leave the session understanding everything. Okay, so let me share. Primrose, I see you've already got a hand up. Is it a question or is it just a hand up? Share screen. Okay, so I'm hoping that you can all see my screen. It's basically, I'm on the HPSP Canvas page and I'm just running through some of the key things about your assignment, because I think a lot of questions you all ask me is here already. So let's first start there. And then if I haven't answered your question, shoot away. So remember that the portfolio of evidence is not a repository. I don't want you to just download things in there. It's not about the things. It's about making connections and explaining, right? So everything that is in your portfolio needs an explanation, needs an interpretation. Why is it there? What about it do you want me to see, to know, to understand? Why have you plunked it there? Don't just put things in there for the sake of putting them in there. You don't get marks for having things there. You get marks for explaining to me why it's there. Okay, so that's important. reflect on your learning to communicate how you're developing, right? So the collection is not about selecting your best work. It's not about perfect. I'm not marking the actual artifacts. I'm not marking the actual submissions. I'm marking your development. I'm marking your thinking about your engagement in this module. And I remind you that this module is within inclusive education, but it's not about inclusive education. I'm not wanting to hear about your accommodation techniques in the classroom and the skills you use and as an inclusive teacher. This module is about unpacking the concept of what does quality education for all mean. And of course, if you've been following on this module, then you'll understand that the concept of quality education for all implicitly should be inclusive. It implies that a quality education for all should accommodate all. And so that is what I'm looking for. This module is about rethinking, unpacking, interrogating, understanding what would it mean to have quality education for all in this country. It's an ideal, granted. It's probably very unlikely to happen right now, but in order to work towards change, we have to first have a clear vision of the change we want. So it's no point, I don't want a whole essay and a whole portfolio about what is wrong in this country. I don't want to know what is wrong with our education system, what is not working, what is not happening. That isn't critical thinking, right? Critical thinking is about what should be, what is the ideal, what would a quality education for all look like in this country, and then unpacking it in terms of, so what needs to change, right? So in what aspects of our education system are not there yet, and in which way are we moving towards it? And also, if you've really engaged well with this module, you should be at a space now where you're realizing that my message to you is that you guys are the change, not government, not the department, not the curriculum. You as teachers is where change begins and ends. And so it's important that you share, your growth, becoming a scholar, becoming not necessarily an academic, but a scholar means a critical thinker in the field of education. So, evidence your growth, evidence your engagement. Where did you start and what were your ideas and thinking, and when you entered this, what were the kind of ideas you had and what were the kind of things that you came in, your presuppositions, your assumptions, your underpinning foundations that maybe you hadn't interrogated or you thought that's where you're coming from. And as you developed, what changed, but not only changed, what strengthened. You might have come with some foundations and philosophies, but like Henry Giraud, not had the language, and kind of now at the end of it, realizing you're still where you were, but now you have the language to express it. Your philosophies and underpinnings and theories haven't changed. What has changed is your ability and competence in now expressing it in an academic or scholarly space. You could be saying, I came in not knowing these things and not knowing that I didn't know them. And now I'm finding myself changing and thinking about this and this and this in this way. Or, it's your journey. There's no right and wrong. But what I'm asking is evidence that journey. You couldn't possibly have come in here and not changed, and not, even if it's one or two things that have just really got you thinking about doing things differently. I'm not looking for like huge activism here. I'm not asking you to completely go and rewrite the curriculum. But if every one of you can think of one or two things in which your own mindset, your own assumptions, your own thinking about your practice, even if it's shifted a little bit, that's significant to me. So that is really what I'm looking for. It's not a repository of tasks. It's about the connections. It's about the explanations, right? You can put a combination of original content as well as existing things that are published. So in other words, what I'm saying there to you is you can take things from the module, from the learning events. If there are videos or readings, if there are comments, if there's something in the learning event presentation, anything that existed in the learning events of this module, if it resonated with you and you want to share that and talk about and explain it. You can also take things from some of the other modules. Okay, so let's say something that Lauren shared with you makes sense as long as you talk about it in the context of my module. So don't give me Bronfenbrenner and tell me how wonderful it is in inclusive policy and then not link it to, so what's it got to do with quality education and philosophies, right? So if you're going to take something, maybe she gave you a video or a clip or a quote and you love that, but connect it into this module. You can also take things you found. Maybe you're on social media or there's a quote that you love and it has, it wasn't shared by me, but it's available out there and you want to put it into your portfolio. It's awesome. Share it, use it, whatever is accessible and available and is meaningful. That's the key thing, is meaningful to you. Just make sure that what you're sharing is ethically responsible, right? So if you're sharing photos of your real context, make sure that if there's faces of children or members or family, that they've given you some permission. And if it's children, then rather blur it in some way. Whatever you use in your portfolio, you reference. If you've taken images or quotes or things from another website, please make sure to references and don't just put the link in. Please go use your Stadio reference guide and have a look at how you accurately reference an image or a web resource, okay? So please be ethically responsible in the things that you are using. Right, so these are just some important things to continuously identify, prepare, and select, right? So these are just things to spark. You don't have to include this, or these are not bullet points in terms of this must be in your portfolio. These are just things to get you thinking, right? Because remember, I want depth. So interrogate the purpose and value of education in society. So think about your own ideas about what is the purpose and value of education. Again, this is about philosophies, worldviews, and approaches. It's not about theories. Please don't put the constructivist theory of learning. This isn't about theories. It's not about learning. It's not about classroom practices. It's about the bigger picture. It's about philosophies and worldviews that underpin not your practices, but your view on education, how you approach your idea of who are the learners, what is a school, what is learning, what is teaching. Right, remember that we're looking at the current South African education system. I know that we like to blame everything on apartheid and colonialism, and it has certainly caused a huge shift and a huge inequalities in this country, but it also occurred 27 years ago. And we need to also take responsibility about things that have not changed in the last 27 years that have nothing to do with that. So while apartheid and colonialism have certainly influenced our education system to great depths, there are certain things that are happening currently which are due to current events, right? And again, like I started it off, I want to reimagine quality education. I don't want what is wrong and what is not working. I want us to be constructive. I want us to be solution focused. I want us to be positive in terms of not what is wrong with it, but where should it be and what needs to change, right? And remember that also my big purpose in this is that I believe that my worldview is that learning is about teaching and sharing. And so for me, a true demonstration of learning is when you've applied it. And applying that is when you're now sharing the knowledge and expressing that knowledge to someone else. So just keeping it in quietly and just looking at books is not knowledge to me. That's just information that's sitting in your head. So think about this portfolio in terms of who's the audience. This is not an assignment that you're ticking off a box for Dr. Charrington. This is about you as an agent of change, as a teacher in this country. If you are compiling a portfolio to share with other teachers, to share with other people, to teach them about what you've learned, to show them the power and agency that teachers in this country have. You all come from different backgrounds, you come from different experiences, you have different ages, you have different cultures and religions and worldviews, and yet each and every one of you has hopefully realized the power that is sitting within you to enact change in this country. So think of this as a portfolio of evidence of your becoming and your being and the power that is inherent in teachers in this country. So aim it not to show me what you've done, but to be proud of who you are. And if you want to make it public, please do. You know, I welcome that. If you are able to and wanting to, get your family to look at your portfolio, ask your colleagues and your teachers, ask fellow students. It's all about engagement. You know, it's not about being marked and assessed. It's about really showing off who you are and who you're developing and the power that sits within you. That is what I'm asking for. Okay, so the guidelines, you all want structure. So this is what it has to be there, right? This is what I'm looking for and marking you on. In your actual portfolio, there must be an introduction page, you know, maybe a photo. This is me, I'm Evie Charrington. This is who I am. This is where I work. You know, just something a bit personal. You're introducing yourself to people. And what is the purpose of your portfolio? You know, it's almost like an exhibition. You know, you don't just somehow walk and see something. You walk in and there's a little bit of a description about this is what you're going to see. This is why I've put it together. This is the theme or the message running through my portfolio. So explain it a little bit so that, you know, as the person kind of works their way through your portfolio, we understand what you're seeing. There needs to be somewhere in their portfolio. It doesn't have to be a long essay. It could be a paragraph. It could be a collage. I don't care how you express it, but looking at your portfolio, I'd like to get an idea of, so what is your worldview? What's your philosophy on education? Not your teaching philosophy necessarily, but what is your philosophy of education? Having learned what you learned now, having gone through the different things, where do you position yourself and why? Again, it doesn't need to be a 5-page essay or a thesis, just an expression of where you see your own philosophy of education and it's developing and emerging. There must be at least 2 discussion forums. Now, when I say that, I don't want you to copy and paste how you responded to one of my discussion forums. I want to see a discussion. I want to see how you engaged, elicited. Have a look here, how you have tried to elicit and stimulate conversation. So putting up a question and saying, do you think da, 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 and everybody goes, yes, I think so. Or if they just go back and they go, Evie, I like your response. I think it's very good. That's not a conversation. That's not critical. That's not eliciting and stimulating conversation. I want to see conversation. I want to see how you, as an agent of change, are now, I stirred the pot with you. You should be thinking about a lot of things. You should be uncomfortable about some things. You should be scratching your head about things. I want you to start doing that for other people. Other people ideally should be, you know, your colleagues, your teachers, but it could also just be your study group. It could also be your family members. I don't mind, but I want to see you starting to ask difficult questions, starting to get people outside of their comfort zone. How do you put to discussion forums? You can use any of the prompts, again, from the activities and the tasks that we had. You're welcome. If you liked a specific prompt and you want to use that one, go for it. You could come up with your own prompts. A prompt could be a question. It could also be, watch this video. What do you think about this? Everything I've given you in this module was strategic, was there to stimulate your thinking, whether it was a reading, whether it was a quote, whether it was a great thinker, whether it was a video. I am meticulous in terms of strategy. Nothing is done for nothing. Nothing is randomly thrown in there. But everything resonates with people in a different way. So if you liked a particular video and you want to see what other people thought about it, then put that video and get a discussion going. If there's a quote that you like, put it there. If there's a question, whatever you want, use that as a prompt. You need to bring in an external app, right? So you could do like a WhatsApp. Let's say if it's your study group and you've got a WhatsApp and you want to embed that, you could sort of do a screenshot of those WhatsApps. And why does the phone always ring when you're having a class session, right? Jeez, sorry. So discussions. You could, let's say, have a WhatsApp conversation with your peers, but I'm saying conversation, and you screenshot those and embed those. Remember that you need permission and consent from the people in that conversation to say, I'm going to embed that in my portfolio. You could do a Zoom. I mean, a discussion doesn't need to be written. It could be oral. You might want to have, let's say, Zoom or WhatsApp video or whatever with your colleagues or your family or your study buddies. and then embed the recording, convert that to MP4, embed that. You could use external apps. Padlet is stunning. Lauren's used Padlet a lot. You could, create your own Padlet and ask people to comment on that and then embed, or podcast even, or blog. I know last year a lot of students use blog post, which is stunning. It's blogspot.com. And that's lovely. I mean, that's really being public. And I think it's nice for you as agents of change and leaders in your field to start learning to be public about your opinions. It's so easy to go and create a wiki page or a blog or something and just, your own opinion about something. And this is where your academic and scholarly writing comes into play as well. And then open it up for comments. So you can also insert that. It really depends your creativity, your originality, your courage, your bravery, how you want to do it. But there are many ways to do a conversation and a discussion. Okay. Engagement with at least one of the 3 webinars. And when I say engagement, please don't stick in your webinar and say, there, it's done. Engage with it. So any one of the 3, even the 3rd one, you didn't do an essay for it, but if you wanted to do an essay for it, go for it. The idea is to show development and growth. You can put in insert one of the webinars with the feedback and comment if you want to engage with that in terms of like what you've learned from it, what you would do differently, what you don't understand. You might sort of just pick out sections of the webinar to say, this is what I thought in webinar 1. And now, at the end of the semester, it's amazing to see how I thought like that. And I've evolved in this way. This is sort of my thinking now. Engage with it. Remember that you're not just engaging with a task. You're welcome to engage with the feedback. You're welcome to maybe give it to your study buddies and have, what did you see from theirs that you could have done differently? It's all about learning and growing. So really about evidencing your engagement with the webinars, right? Comparative education studies. So that's the report that you did. Okay, so those are coming. Sorry, we've just had a delay with one of the markers, but I should be posting it up by Monday at the latest. But again, I've spoken to you guys about feedback, and I will speak again when we have our Q's and A's. But anything about the comparative education studies, you can take out. Please don't plonk the entire report in there. Again, your engagement with it. So what about the comparative study stuff for you? What did you like? What was challenging? What didn't you like? At the end of the day, what did you learn from that? Okay, so those are things in your portfolio. And of course, as much or as little as you want, I don't mind. The things in your portfolio are artifacts for the discussion, for the essay, right? What I'm really marking you on is this essay, right? The concluding reflective essay. And the essay is really referring to the artifacts. So I'm going to look at your portfolio and go, oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. And then I'm going to read the essay. And in the essay, you're going to refer back to the portfolio and say, for example, so I've learned a lot about my philosophy of education. For example, in a portfolio, I've used X quote because that resonates. So I really loved working on a collage to represent my philosophy of education because, so in your essay, you're going to refer back and explain what is in your portfolio. Okay, so your essay, right, these are guiding questions, but so we're thinking about, remember, this is about theories, concepts, philosophies of education in my module. So try and make those connections, not to every single thing. Remember quality, not quantity. I don't want a million things. What stood out for you? What are some of the key concepts, approaches, philosophies that really, really personally resonated with you and why? Putting the portfolio together, that in itself is a learning tool and a learning activity that facilitated things. So you can share some of that. Challenges and successes in this module and in the portfolio, looking back at your learning and your growth. What did you realize You're really proud of yourself, or you didn't realize you had that competence and now you do, or maybe some of the challenges you didn't realize that it would be such a struggle, and that's work in progress. Biggest learning point for you in the module. And remember, this is about building, right? I'm not going to mark you down because you said you didn't understand this or you struggled with that. That's awesome. But what are you going to do about it? So moving forward, how are you going to develop yourself as an educator? Okay. And then describe your worldview, philosophy, and so forth, right? So remember, it's all about what has changed for you. I'm looking for your engagement. So in the essay, what I'm looking for is, where were you when you started? What was some of your thinking about? And then how did you develop and how did you grow? What were some of the key success points for you? What were aha moments, referring to the portfolio? What were some of the challenges? What were some of the things that you really didn't like and you struggled with? Refer to the portfolio. Some growth points, some things you're proud of, refer to the portfolio, and then pull it all together. And so where are you now? So what are you taking with you moving forward? How are you going to apply this knowledge? How are you going to make meaning of it or not? You might have felt this entire module was just, and you didn't really gain anything from it. It's not your cup of tea. You just learned very little. You struggled the whole way through. You didn't know what I'm looking for. That's awesome. Share it. I'm not marking you on agreeing with you. I'm marking you on your critical thinking. If I can develop your thinking to explain to me why you didn't like this module and why it didn't work for you, then that's amazing. But use critical thinking and use academic, scholarly, formal academic writing. Okay. You must use Google Sites. I won't accept any other format but Google Sites. So basically, what you do is on Canvas, what you submit is a Word document, which is your reflective essay. It must have a cover page. I can't believe that some students are still not submitting work with a cover page. The cover page must include your name, your student number, the module, and what you're submitting, which is the reflective or summative essay, right? Somewhere on that essay, I don't mind where it is, it could be on the cover page, you provide the link for me for the Google site, okay? And if you go to Google site, you'll see at the top right corner, you can put publish, and you could put their share. And then you can set your settings if you want to do it public or restrict. But guys, if you don't make it shareable, I'm not going to see anything. And please don't insert or embed things from your Google Drive unless you've made it shareable in public, because if I cannot open it, if it's restricted access, I'm not even going to have the time to email you back like I have with some of the other assignments. If I can't open it, I can't see it. So please double check that it is shareable. And this is what you need your study buddies for. Do me a favor and send them, email them your final summative thing with the link and ask them to access it and see if they can access it, and ask them to look through it, and make sure that everything is open. I promise you that if you just do a run through with somebody and just get them to check it, you won't have the issue of me saying I couldn't open it. So please make sure it's shareable. Mark, I see your hand up. I just want to finish quick. Remember that your essay must directly connect to the module, right? And I'm looking for some critical thinking. I'm not looking for a tick list of here's a webinar, here's the comparative report, here's a discussion. And please, formal academic writing. So this essay, right, is exactly as you have been working on your webinar reflections, right? In the webinar reflections, it's the same way that I've been teaching you, whether you're reading an article or book, whether it's a presentation, whatever it is, there's something, an event, and you are using that event to describe it and then to reflect on what the meaning is for you and the so what. This is the same thing. The portfolio now becomes the event, right? You will describe a portfolio. So for this module, this is the portfolio I've created. This is the theme that runs through it. This is the purpose of the portfolio. These are some of the key things I want to highlight. Now interpret these things. So some key things from the portfolio that I want to point out. Then you use the literature, right? So it's not all thumb sucking. It's not all if you're going to refer to a philosophy or concept and approach, then I want to see literature, okay? Evidence, show me how you've learned to integrate the literature into your own opinion. Show me how you've learned to reference. There must be in-text referencing. What you've referenced in the text must be referenced at the end in your reference list. So there must be a reference list. This is a formal academic reflective essay, right? So the portfolio itself is for public. It evidences your learning. Your colleagues who are not honors students must be able to engage with it and like it and understand it. It mustn't be like academic thesis. But the actual essay that you're submitting to me is a formal academic essay, right? It must be formatted nicely. Any essay, any academic writing will always have an introduction paragraph. This essay is about XYZ. In this essay, this is what I present. And it will always have a conclusion that wraps it up. It's like a sandwich, right? In a conclusion will be the same as your introduction, but in this essay was about presenting my portfolio. In the essay, I've presented XYZ. And this is the key message. So it must have an introduction and a conclusion. There must be referencing in text and a reference list. You must write it in first person. I don't want to hear about what you think other people should be doing. Things like, we as teachers must. I don't care. You cannot possibly speak for every single teacher in this country. And that's not academic writing. It lacks critical thinking. I realize that I should, right? Or I now see that I need to. That's first person writing, okay? You can back it up with literature. In fact, you must back things up with literature, and especially if you're going to make general statements, right? So if you make general statements about teachers often don't take into account XYZ, you can't possibly, that's a fact. So how do you know that? That comes from the literature. So be careful to clarify your statements. A statement is either a third person statement, which is a fact. So it comes from literature, comes from a source, or it's your own view. And then you need to clarify, in my view, it is my opinion that I realize, I see. Okay, so that's the only two options. You're either making statements of facts with the reference, or you are validating that this is your view. Okay. Okay, and statements like, I found it interesting. I found this video very interesting. It's very vague. Like, I'm glad you found it interesting, but what I really want to know is why. And remember the ice cream session we did about, it's great that strawberry is your favorite, but why is it your favorite? How did you come around to knowing that it's your favorite? In what way does it influence your other decisions? So don't just tell me, you know, I really like this and I learned a lot. Also, too vague. That's wonderful. Like, describe, you know, interrogate, unpack. What exactly did you learn? And now that you know what you know, how are you going to implement, apply, and change your own thinking practices and so forth? Okay. Right. So that is all I have to say. Hopefully I've covered a lot, but I see that there are questions. So, okay. Stop share. Right. So let's see. Let's get going. Okay, Mark, you've got your hand up. Would you like to ask me a question?
Thank you very much, Dr. Curtin. I just have become hypersensitized to be regarding my wordiness. Could you please give us a guideline as far as the length, which I do not see in any of the documentations which you require for the essay?
Good point. I would think for an essay like that, a good length would be 3 to 5 pages. Anything less than 3 pages. And remember, when I give you page counts, I'm excluding the cover letter, but I'm including references, because to me, references are part of the work, right? Yes. So I would say anything between 3 to 5. Anything less than 3 to me just is too brief to capture an entire semester of learning. Anything over 5 or 6 pages, you're just waffling now. right?
Okay.
So
Well,
we'll go
that's
with the
fine.
leeway. Yeah, so I'll go with the leeway on that. But if you guys are sitting on more, than 5-6 pages, you're not getting focused. And remember, academic writing is all about saying the most in the least, right? Because as academics, you get charged per word, and you don't want to lose. It's like a presentation. If it goes too long, you've lost the message, right? And so remember that you want to get to the point. You don't want to waffle. I don't want a whole history of something. I want to know, what is it that you're showing in the portfolio? What is it? Describe it, analyze it, and then move on to the so what. And okay. I would hazard, in terms of, if let's say we're going to 3 to 5 pages, I would break it up in that way where, section it in terms of thirds. Remember, you want to describe, but you need to move beyond, so if you are starting with page 1, by page 2.5, 3, you need to be going on to the interpretation now. And the last page should be packed with your critical thinking, so make sure that you're moving your discussion away from just saying, this is the comparative report, and this is what I learned, and this is the webinars, and this is what I learned. So you're welcome to either, and again, everything, join the dots, guys. Think back to your reflective writing. You could either say, this was the webinar and the following 3 points stood out for me, 1, 2, 3, then collectively interpret that and say, what I really learned was this, and then bring it into the critical thinking. Or you could unpack one by one, and you could say there were 3 key ideas. Firstly, the idea of XYZ. This was important to me because, and this is the so what. The second idea. So, it's up to you what your flow and organization is, but you need to take your thinking and your interrogation beyond just describing. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Just one last question.
Of course.
Just a clarification. The essay itself, is it different submission, or is it is it something that we embed into the portfolio of evidence?
No, the portfolio is the link of the portfolio is embedded into your essay. So you guys only submit the reflective essay. That is the tangible product. Okay. Because remember that your portfolio is work in progress. Things change and evolve, and you're welcome to continue with it if you'd like to, but the essay is what gets submitted. So the essay is what the markers are physically working with. And as we read the essay, we open the portfolio and we look through your portfolio. The portfolio almost becomes the artifact. But the meat that you're getting marked on is the essay. Right. So if you guys look at the rubric, and please do that, you need to look at the rubric at the assessment guide. Yeah. Exactly. So you will see that the marking develops. You do get marks for the visual and the professionalism and creativity and originality and all of that, but you also get marks for the content of how much you engaged with the module and the diversity, and then you get marks for the critical thinking and the writing and the referencing. So it really kind of weaves, if that makes sense. I cannot mark the essay without seeing your portfolio and understanding visually, but to look at your portfolio without the essay will have very little meaning to me.
Right. Okay. No.
Is that answering your question? I hope you guys.
Just like I said, with the feedback that I've been given, I just want to make sure that I don't.
I'm glad you are. That's the purpose of this. So absolutely. And you're asking questions. I think lots of people are also, it's helping for everybody. So that's why I say this is what the session is about, because you guys are all asking me the same question. So if one person has the courage to say it, then I've answered 50 people's questions. So
thank you, Dr. Peter.
You're very welcome, Mark. So Bronwyn, thanks for clarity, right? So Hannah, we are submitting it. You can if you want to. So Hannah's asking if you put the essay into the portfolio. It's up to you what you want to put in the portfolio. I need to have a Word document. So for Canvas, if you don't submit the essay through Canvas, it doesn't mark as submitted, right? So you have to submit the full essay, and that is what is submitted on the 23rd. It cannot be later than that. If it's later, then it counts as incomplete, right? So the essay is what your external markers are going to access, and within the essay must be the link to your portfolio or your Google Sites. And remember again to make sure that your Google Sites is shared, otherwise we cannot access it, right? So the essay is the tangible product or the document that you submit through Canvas. And it will go through a Turnitin report because, as I said, you must be using literature, right? There we go. I've just answered that for you. So yes, it will go through a Turnitin. I still have to just connect it. So you will be checked for plagiarism because it's an exit level module and it's a summative essay, right? But 75% of your essay should be your own views and your own learning and your critical thinking. But like I say, you should be building it on literature, and you're connecting it to things in the module. You're connecting it to concepts and approaches. So don't say, like Alvin Toffler stated, blah, 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 and then not reference it. Alvin Toffler didn't just say it into thin air. He published it. He said it in a presentation. So anything that you mention in there needs to be referenced. Where did you get that information? You either got that information from a source, and a source could be a website, it could be a presentation, it could be an article, it could be a book, right? If you're going to refer it to one of the learning events, then you need to reference that. If you're going to refer it to a webinar, you need, but don't say Alvin Toffler said and then reference the learning event. He didn't say it in my learning event. He said it you need to find that publication or that video where he said it. So please don't reference me. You need to reference good sources. Michaela, I see you had your hand up. Somebody else had their hand up too, and it's disappeared.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to clarify that I'm understanding correctly. I'm just going to put this on. Sorry.
Yes.
So just to put my thoughts together. So, for example, in the portfolio, I've put a story about something that happened, an interaction that I had with one of my learners at school, and that really rocked or shook one of the assumptions that I had about a worldview that we were talking about in the module. Now, when it comes to the essay, can I just refer to the story because they'll be read in conjunction, or do I need to re-explain the story in the essay?
No, wonderful. Thank you for that question. That's exactly. So you use the essay and you refer to where it is in the portfolio. So you will say in the essay, so in the story, which can be found under this tab in the portfolio, or so we call it cross-referencing, right? So you'll introduce it, and then in brackets, you will say, refer to portfolio section this, or refer to discussion on schools that work in the portfolio, or refer to. So, and just make it clear of where exactly. So remember, your marker might not be me, and your marker has not engaged with you for a semester. So think to yourself, if someone's reading this and looking at the portfolio, how will they find what I'm referring to? So just cross-reference. You don't have to now take up your 5 pages repeating it. You want to refer back to a portfolio, and you want to make that connection. You want the reader to read your essay and go, okay, pause, go to the portfolio, look for that and go, oh, okay. Oh, that's beautiful. Now I understand what that means. That's the kind of engagement you want the reader and the examiner to have with your work. Okay, super. Christina, your hand's up.
So just to confirm, for our portfolio, we have to in-text reference in the portfolio, or just videos?
In the essay.
Okay, so not in the portfolio, except if it's a video.
The portfolio must still be a representation, right? As a developing academic, it would be highly unethical for you to be inserting things without acknowledging it. So if it depends, like in your portfolio is artifacts. So if you should have new essays, but if you've got, let's say, blogs and things and you're writing, if you're writing and you're using other people's ideas and you're not referencing it, what kind of learning has taken place? Because that's unethical. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I'm not understanding, but in your portfolio, if you've got, let's say, a blog or something, like I say, if you're talking about I like Alvin Toffler's quote about, well, where does that quote come from? I mean, that's very poor academic development. Is that, as a teacher for your learners, is that not what you want to teach them? Is that learning is part of acknowledging where knowledge and information comes from and building on top of that? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but in your portfolio, what would you be using in text referencing? Because your portfolio is mostly artifacts and engagements and your own thinking, and it should be more about your own ideas, and then whatever you're inserting there needs to be referenced.
No, that's what I was just confirming, because I don't want to not reference anything and then get marked down for it. Or if I'm just engaging, I just wanted to make sure that we're not, like, there's more in-text referencing in our essay than there would be in our portfolio, unless you take someone's video or photo.
Think of it in this way. Your essay is formal academic writing, okay? It's on the level of, you're going to be presenting this to a panel of professors, or you're going to be presenting this in an academic conference. You are sharing your own critical thinking and scholarly work. So it's first person, it's reflective writing, but who's your audience? Your audience is academics, right? So you're basing, I want to see critical thinking. I want to see good scientific scholarly evidence and building reasoning. I want to see sentences and paragraphs and punctuation. I want it quality, academic quality. Your portfolio is a public space. We're not going to aim, like, it's not for professors and academics, it's for your peers. But having said that, it's poor form as an educator to be taking information out there and not acknowledging it. And so to me, that's what referencing is. Referencing is just acknowledging appropriately knowledge that does not belong to you. And things like Mandela once said that's very unprofessional. Yeah, we are now good academic scholars. We know better. You have to acknowledge he didn't just say that. It was published somewhere where. And at the worst case scenario, if you don't know where it was published from, where did you get it from? So at least acknowledge, just be ethical and responsible in your portfolio. In your essay, top-notch quality academic work. Is this making sense, everybody? I hope so. My language is going out the window here, but I hope it's making sense. You're welcome. Tara.
Hi there.
Hello.
Thank you. I just wanted to find out, I know you said we shouldn't be just plonking stuff in, we should be reflecting and using critical writing, but just thinking that if I am sharing it with colleagues and other people, is it okay to sort of screenshot the activity, the prompt, maybe my response, and then speak to it so they can see the experience with me? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You're welcome to screenshot your engagement in the module, like let's say in some of the discussion forums that I've posted as a involvement task, and you want to show that, you're more than welcome to screenshot that and then embed it and speak to that. So it's just that, think about if your colleagues or study buddies or the general public is not going to get the essay. So if they're just looking at something, it makes no sense. There needs to, if you're just going to plonk a webinar or put something and not explain what it is and what you learned about it, it makes no sense on its own. Then it's just a file. But you don't necessarily on your portfolio have to go into depth unless you want to, if you wrote a blog about it or want to explain it. So think about your audience, think about the audience looking at your portfolio. Is it making sense to them? And then think about us marking you what is it that you want to show? You might want more depth on that. And again, just be ethical and responsible. If you guys are sharing things off the learning platform, off of Canvas, any of the discussions, if you're sharing correspondence you've had with other people, WhatsApp conversations, please make sure that you get consent for that. Don't have a conversation with, let's say, Mark, and then post it, and I'm reading it, and then Mark goes, shit, why did you do that? Like, I didn't want Dr. Charrington to see that. Do you know what I'm saying? So just be ethical in the way and what you put onto that. And just all you need to put is a little star with little italics just to say, you know, I did get verbal consent from the people mentioned in this. You know, just be responsible. That's part of being an academic scholar, is just knowing to be responsible in what you do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Tandy, how long should a portfolio be? I can't answer that, my dear. It's your own learning and development. It's as long as you need it to be. And did you have another question for me? Hi, Tandy. You're on mute though.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Charrington. That was my first one, because I also needed some guidelines on how long should it be, but then I understand. And then okay, I was just going to ask that, because in your introduction, if I have my personal background in photo and purpose of my portfolio, just wanted to know, like, how long should it be? But well, it will depend on my writing.
It depends on what you want to share in that. It's your journey, it's your development. It depends what resonated with you and what didn't. I'm not going to mark you down for having only 3 things or 5 things or 10 things. Remember that there are specific things I'm looking for. So I need to see discussions and conversations. I need to see at least 2. But if you had 5 amazing ones and you want to, you know, the portfolio is a shared space. So I'm not going to be strict on that. But I am going to look for things in the essay. So there must be certain things that I want you to engage with, but over and above that, it's your rodeo, it's your show. You can do the minimum, or you can do what resonates with you. But the essay must not be longer than 5 to 6 pages. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Dr. Abby.
Yes.
Hi, sorry, my hand was up. I don't know. My Wi-Fi dipped, so I think you did ask for me, but I was off. So I don't know if this question has been asked, and I hope I'm going to ask it in the right way now. But if we want to refer to something that we have already written, do we reference ourselves in the essay, or
no,
should we just say?
You don't need to reference yourself, because remember, referencing is acknowledging the source of the knowledge. If you are the source of the knowledge, you can't reference yourself, right? Unless it's published work. So you just in first person. So when I look at my response in webinar 1, bracket, cross-reference to the portfolio section, so
Okay.
I found it interesting that, or it's funny how first person, you know, so you're referring to yourself the whole way through. Don't refer to yourself as in the third person. And please don't, in academic writing, we never passive, we never use the one. One would think that, or one might assume that. One's don't. It's me, I, my, your, my, you know, first person. Okay. Unless you're taking it out of literature. So according to Charrington 2010, you know, this philosophy, blah, 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 the concept so-and-so. So let's say you're writing about Ubuntu and you want to talk about what you've learned about Ubuntu, then you're welcome to say, you know, what really struck me was the webinar conversation, you know, where we interrogated Afrocentric view. And I can see in webinar 2 how I expressed, bracket, cross-reference to your portfolio. And it struck me that and I never thought of Ubuntu, and now I understand that Ubuntu is about this, quote, or or as Molefe explained, or as Molefe writes, quote, and then reference. So integrate your own voice, your own opinion, your own learning with external knowledge, external sources, be them a webinar or a publication or a YouTube, but just make sure use the Stadio referencing guide and learn how to reference properly. If it's an online YouTube video, don't write the YouTube video, blah, blah, blah. There's a specific way to reference a YouTube video. There's a specific way to reference an article. So that's what I'm asking, is to integrate. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
And please, as I said again, don't reference me in the learning event. So if let's say in one of the learning events, I gave an example and you're like, wow, that was my aha moment. You simply refer, you only reference published work. So you simply refer. In learning event 5, Dr. Charrington explained, when Dr. Charrington explained XYZ, and she said, and you paraphrase my words, you don't quote me. This really resonated with me because, okay, so you don't need to now reference Charrington Learning Event 5. Those were engagements that you and I had, but you certainly need to reference articles, books, online resources, webinar. Does that make sense? So don't reference me, Dr. Charrington 2022. You don't reference the learning events. Tara, may we please have some tips on using Turnitin? Okay, I haven't connected Turnitin, but what will happen is once I've connected it, it's automatic. So you get, I always give you guys 2 chances, 2 attempts. If you really want to check your thing before, then all you do is when you submit your essay, your Word document or PDF, I see, Tonya, you asked Word or PDF, I don't mind. When you submit it, it will automatically go through Turnitin and generate a similarity report. If you've submitted it before the time, you've got a chance to look at it, and then you're welcome to resubmit. I will only get the second attempt, right? So I won't see the first attempt. If you do 1 attempt and that's it, then that's what Canvas will send to me. If you do 2 attempts, it ignores the first one, it overrides it with the second one, and I only get the second one. So I will open from the 20th, which is Monday, I will open the submission and Turnitin will be automatic in there. You don't need a password, you don't need anything, right? If you choose to then revise it and you want a second one, then that's the one that counts. You don't get more than 2 tries. And then please remember how a similarity report works. It's not the be all and end all of everything, right? A similarity report just red flags concern, right? So Turnitin is rubbish. It's not a great tool, but it is what it is, and that's what we use. So it simply flags for the marker that the similarity is a little bit too high. Anything between 10 and 15. I'm aware that some of the assessment guides say 10, some 15. It's not a hard and fast rule. Anything between 10 and 15 is, let's look at it. Anything above 15 means the examiner is going to really check the report, and we're going to look paragraph by paragraph. Now, remember that plagiarism can be intentional and it can be accidental. So the obvious is intentional. You've literally taken paragraphs from the resource and you've just copied and pasted without accurate referencing, without quotation marks. That's just straightforward copying. You guys are all graduates already. You've already done 3 to 4 years. You should know better. You cannot copy word for word someone else's work and place it into yours. That's just not on. If you're using other resources, you should paraphrase in your own words. And we have provided several sessions now with Marina and Vedata on that. So there's no excuse. Accidental plagiarism is when you simply just not referenced correctly, where you've kind of used your own words, but not really, or where you simply haven't put it in quotation marks or done it properly. Obviously, if it's straight off intentional, you've copied sections and it's significant, that is plagiarism and we won't mark it. I cannot mark sections that are not acknowledged. If I don't know where it's coming from, if I don't know if it's yours or not yours, I cannot mark it. It's not your original work. If it's accidental, because we can see, you know what, you just haven't referenced properly, you're certainly going to get marks deducted because you're not referencing properly and it shows lack of competence. And at honors level, you should know better and you should know how to reference, but you won't get a 0. Okay, so please don't take this at just like black and white. It's not. if it comes out higher than 15%, it means there's a lot of similarity. Look through the report. If you're seeing sections that are chunked like that, then you need to revise that because that will get marked down. If it's just sections like that, then use your own judgment. That's what we're going to do. We're going to use our own judgment. It just red flags it. So I hope that I've answered your anxiety about that. Leilani, your hand is up. Is it a second question? Or is that from the
Yes,
before?
yes, please. No, it's the second question. I just want to ask, I think Tara asked if we can save it in PDF. Now,
Yes.
I'm just worried. If we save the essay in PDF, will the marker be able to see the portfolio link that you've embedded in there? Will they be able to click on it, or?
But remember, we can also copy and paste, hey, because it would be an external link. So
All right.
Google Docs or Google Sites is basically just a website. So, you know, when you insert, you anyway do a Word document and you insert it and then it turns blue, right? And then you convert it to a PDF, then just make sure. And like I say, send your essay to a peer buddy or somebody else and ask them to click on it. And if it opens, it opens.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
That makes sense. So it's just an external, like any, you know, internet page would be. Bianca, you want me to repeat? So you don't reference yourself. You don't need to like reference where it came from. You just refer to it. So let's say you wanted to say, when I look back at how I responded in webinar 1 and the feedback that I received, or when I looked back at how I commented on involvement task 1, bracket cross-reference to where it is in the portfolio, I can see that, you know. So if you're just referencing or if you're just cross-referencing to the work that you've engaged with, you don't have to formally academic reference, you know, Chetty 2022. You simply just cross-reference to where it is in the portfolio. So you talk in the first person is, when I look at how I responded here, when I look at my comments on this and this and this, you just speak in the first person. Hannah, I've answered your question, hopefully, about the similarity report. Okay, so Tonya, yes. Right, so I'm not questions. Michaela, your hand's up.
I'm back, sorry. I just want to triple check with the referencing. I really don't want to get it completely wrong. I understand the essay and all of that, but in the ePortfolio itself, for example, I've added some like a YouTube TED talk about what inspired me, and then I've had a little thing about why it inspired me. Do I need to now go and create a drop-down page or a section in the ePortfolio with references and then reference that YouTube video, even though it takes you directly to YouTube? The link that I've embedded there. That's a good
question. You see, it's good that you ask these things. So there's two things you can do in your portfolio. You can either every section or tab have the references at the bottom. So let's say you've got a particular thing and there's a YouTube video here and you mention Alvin Toffler and whatever, then at the bottom, formal, proper, you know, references to it. And if you want to put the link on it, you're welcome to. Or you can rather have a tab that says references and sources. And on that page, you know, list them properly in alphabetical order, you know, in terms of, you know, like how I do the resource list for you guys for every learning event. And there's sort of a Word document and there's some readings connected to this, extra resources, blah, blah, blah. You could also, you know, it's up to you how it resonates with you. So it needs to, you know, it just needs to be acknowledged. I just don't want to see a portfolio where there's a lot of external stuff and you haven't actually acknowledged where it comes from. So some of the things in your portfolio is going to require good academic references because you're using academic literature, books, things like that. Some of it are YouTube videos, some are just images, some are just quotes you've taken off of Goodreads, you know. So within reason, I'm not going to penalize you because you haven't referenced beautifully, but I want to see that you understand, you know, like I say, it's a competence. You cannot be a scholar out there in the world sharing knowledge and then not being ethically responsible by acknowledging where this comes from. So whatever resonates in your portfolio. You all have different styles. If you want to do a readings and resources tab, make sure everything's in there. If you want to just put little footnotes onto each section, up to you. Is that okay? But the essay, there's no option. Perfect in text referencing and a reference list in alphabetical order, no bullets, following the Stadio reference guide.
Okay, and then just one more.
Yes.
I've done a lot of work on Padlet, but not so much like an interaction thing with other people, just as a means of getting some variety kind of thing. Do I need to reference Padlet?
No, because it's just an external link. So
Okay.
you only reference when you're using someone's knowledge, right?
All
so
right.
if you're inserting, let's say something someone else created, you created.
All right. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The Padlet is something you created. So it's yours. But let's say I created a video, then that's my creation, my knowledge, and you're wanting to build on that, then you need to reference that it belongs to me. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same with, YouTube videos that other people create. If you're wanting to use, let's say you're wanting to use another student's something, let's say you want to compare what they did and you did, then that's their knowledge. You need to acknowledge that it comes from them, that it's not yours. Okay. Mark, hand is up.
Sorry, I'm just working through the Stadio reference guide, and I was just trying to find the YouTube reference, but I have. Thank you.
Welcome. And guys, Marina, most of you have gone to those workshops. She's still available. So please don't email me and ask me how to reference something. If you're really, really stuck, email her. That's what she's there for. She's the postgraduate degrees librarian. Please don't do it at 10 o'clock at night, the night before. But she is there and she's accessible to help you out with it. So she is a resource. Okay, let me see some emoticons. A lot of you have been very, very quiet. Can I get some emoticons? How are we feeling? How are we doing? Was this helpful? Are you feeling better about this? Is somebody still crying and in shock? Leilani's still in shock. I'm sorry about that. Anyone else? Thank you, Nombuso. And thank you, Daneo. I'm glad you guys are feeling a bit better about it. Anyone else? Anyone out there? Oh, Boris is in shock. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And Primrose is crying her eyes out. Thank you, Taryn. Thank you, Tyra. Thank you. Megan is not so happy with me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did warn you all. Thank you, Kebetse. I did warn you all that you needed to start on this right from the word go. This is not something you put together at the last minute. Please, please, please engage with one another. Don't do this on your own. Share it, show other people, let them give you some input on it. This is what your peers are for. And I just want to remind you all, remember right from the beginning, right? I said, my philosophy of education, for me, education is about sharing knowledge and making sense of it. And I'm a critical theorist. And I work from a post-humanism perspective. So I don't believe that I'm the source of all knowledge. And I've said that from the beginning. I only bring 50% of the knowledge into this module. The rest lies with you and with the world, right? I'm not the only source of knowledge. I know that a lot of you, this is completely off into left. You've never created an ePortfolio. You've never worked on Google Docs or sites. But guys, this is what education is about, being a scholar, an educationist, an education change maker, even a decision maker. We are moving into the 21st century. This is what education is about. We can no longer do the same thing over and over and over again, right? We need to take a leap out of our comfort zone. And this is exactly what this module is about. Everything I've taught you, everything I've shared with you is coming to this. It's about understanding that knowledge is created and shared. It's understanding that it's learning. It's understanding that we cannot continue doing education the way we have always done it. We have to start changing things, and it's us as educators. We have to start changing things from the inside. We have to start learning to be different. We have to start shaking and changing and interrogating our way of thinking and doing and being as educationists. And so this is about understanding that learning happens in multiple spaces. I know that I'm not teaching you how to do a portfolio. I could do that. I could have a whole lesson with you, step by step by step, how to do a portfolio. But why? I'm not the only source of information. It's out there. And the fact that you have had to, by force, go out into the World Wide Web and find resources and talk to one another and learn from each other, learn from tutorials or not, that is education. This is what we need. We need to stop thinking that we as teachers are 90% of content, right? So please understand that this is part of it. This is the competency you need. It's no point just giving me theories and concepts and what you read in the books. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see how you take the content and the theory and how you make sense of it in terms of your own development as an education change maker. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. I want to see you shaking the boat. I want to see you challenge yourself. I want to see you so far out of your comfort zone. That is what this module is about. That is what this module is about, because that is the purpose of education. Education is growth, right? Education is growth. So I know it's scary. I'm sorry. I know that I've pushed you off a ledge, but I hope that for most of you, this module has been an eye-opener. I know that it is completely different to what many of you have experienced in education before. But this is what tertiary, and this is what in some countries that you guys looked at, this is what they're doing in secondary education. This is what they're doing in schools. This is how learning takes place. And so you need to open your mind to alternative ways of doing education. Okay. iPhone, whoever you are, may I know where this recording, your guess is as good as mine. So as soon as I can. What happens with this is it doesn't come to me, it goes to the servers and the clouds of Stadio, and I drop an email immediately as we finish to ask them to please retrieve it. But it goes on a list, and it depends how many other things they need to retrieve. And as soon as they retrieve it, they bookmark it, and then they send me the link. And so as soon as I get that, I upload it for you. So it should technically be within 24 hours. And as far as I know, there aren't any other lessons this week because it's exam prep. So it should be quick. And I promise you, I'm going to put as many urgent exclamation marks on my request to have this uploaded as I can so that it gets to you as fast as possible. iPhone, I hope I've answered your question. I don't know. Estelle, I'm glad you are feeling, what did Tara say? I know it's taken a while to understand, but I hope that now I have shared some information for you. And you guys have until the 23rd to work on it. So please do engage with one another. I'm glad that it's helped you. There's no extensions, unfortunately, because it's not me that sets final assessments are set across Stadio and the program. So as lecturers, we don't have the ability to change dates on assessments, I'm afraid. Yashna, I'm glad this has helped you. I know we all wish we had a little bit more time, but unfortunately, that is the way. We only get 12 weeks in the semester. I'm glad it was useful. Right, guys, so that is it. Please, if you have questions, engage with the Q&A forum. I check it every day. I promise to reply as soon as I can. Please don't email me because right now my inbox is flooded with other things and I can't promise to get to that, but the Q&As I do check. I know that you've all been told about the letters. So if you guys need letters to get off work for the next 2 weeks of assessments, please email me your the name, well, your name that you want on the letter, your student number, and the name of your place of employment. And I promise to email you a letter that requests for you to have leave off work. Yes, and just remember that semester 2 starts on was it the 1st of August, 2nd of August, somewhere there, the first week of August. And as usual, we start off the semester with academic week. Thank you, Tanya. So the 1st of August, I will be sending that out. So please, after you submit, don't disappear. Semester only closes on the 15th of July. So we are still going to send you communication up until the 15th of July. So please check your emails. There are feedback surveys that are going to come your way. And there's information about academic week. So academic week is that first week of August. Again, where it's the same as we did in orientation. It's topics that are there to assist you in improving your writing, engaging more critically, looking at feedback. So all of those things that you struggle with and that we've seen, very, very useful. Yes, they will be recorded, but they will be very participatory and engaging. They will all be in the afternoon after 3:30. So we will send you that schedule, but please, if you can bookmark that first week, I highly, highly recommend it. It will probably be from about, I don't think it will be Monday, but it will very likely be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that week, those afternoons are going to be jam-packed. So if you can, I highly suggest you put aside that first week, and then lectures for your modules will start the week after. Okay. So thank you, everybody. I wish you well. Engage, enjoy, don't stress, just do your best. You know, this is really about you. Just do what you can, read the instructions again, go back to the rubric, see what I'm marking, go back to the feedback. All the feedback will be uploaded next week. I'm sorry for the delay. And remember, go back to all the learning events. I've said this before, where I don't see knowledge as only written. So I've given a lot of feedback in those live sessions. If you go back to those, you will see that I've shared a lot in terms of what needs to happen. Exactly as you write the reflective essays for the webinar, all of that is building up for this final reflective essay. So whatever I've discussed through the learning events about how to interpret, how to be critical, how to write good reflective essays, everything that I've given you in terms of the webinar essays is exactly what I want to see in this summative reflective essay. Who are the letters for, Tara? For your boss, for your employers, for those of you who need time off work because you want to focus on your final assessments. For those who are part-timers, you have assessments next week. For those who are also doing research, you have presentations the following week. So if anybody needs to ask their employers for leave, you just email me and I can give you like a formal stadio letter just confirming that you have assessments so that you can request leave. Okay, guys, so that's it. Thank you so much for sticking out, and just, yeah, do well, and hopefully we'll see you in the next semester, and I look forward to engaging with your portfolio. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good evening and a lovely long weekend. Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye, everyone. Keep warm.
Thank you. Bye.
You're very, very welcome. Bye-bye.